This is the first semester exam, part 2 for 7th grade math with Mrs. Blum. We're going to go ahead and finish up the no calculator section. Number 6 says a positive times a negative will always have a negative answer. A negative times a negative will produce a positive answer. A negative times a positive will create a negative answer. And a positive times a positive will have a positive answer. In number 10, it said to solve 64 divided by a negative 4. A positive divided by a negative will give us a negative answer. And 64 divided by 4. Sorry about my finger there, guys. 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract and you get 2. Bring down the 4. 4 goes into 24 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24 and you get 0. So our answer will be negative 16. In number 11, we have 2 fractions and we need to add them. When we add our fractions, the first thing we need to do is find a common denominator. The easiest way to do that is to multiply the denominators together. 9 times 7 is 63. Then you multiply the opposite denominators by the numerator. 7 times 8 is 56, and that's negative. 6 times 9 is 54. So negative 56 plus 54 gives us a negative 2 63rds. We get the negative 2 because 56 is further away from 0, so our answer would be negative. And when you add a positive and a negative value, you subtract the terms and keep the sign of the greater absolute value. So that would be your final answer. In number 12, we're simplifying 5/8 times 2/3. Simplify is a fancy way of saying go ahead and multiply. When we multiply our fractions, we just multiply straight across and simplify. 5 times 2 is 10. 8 times 5 is 40. We can simplify this by dividing both by 10. That gives us 1/4. In number 13, Samantha is diving in the Olympics. To practice, she dives from a board 11.7 meters from the ground. Her dive takes her 2.5 meters below the water surface. How far does she travel in the dive? So we need to find out how far she went from the top of the board to the bottommost point below the water surface. One way that we can do that is by drawing a picture. Here's the diving board. Here's the pool. From here to here, she goes 2.5 meters. And from here to here, she goes 11.7 meters. Remember, your drawings are your sketches. They don't have to be pretty. So we are looking for the total distance traveled, which would be 11.7 plus 2.5. 7 plus 5 is 12. So I'm going to put my 2, carry my 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, including my decimal point here. And I have a 1 left over. So in total, she traveled 14.2 meters. Remember, when you're working with addition and subtraction and you have a decimal point, you would in essence line them up as such. 11.7, 2.5. And we would do the same thing. Bringing down the decimal point. So our answer is 14.2 meters. Looking onto the back to finish up our no calculator section. If you missed the first 5 problems, please check the link for part 1 of the practice exam. In 14, it says, what is the most specific way you could classify the number 0? When we are classifying numbers, we have the option of choosing between rational numbers, integers, whole numbers, and natural numbers. The most specific way that we can classify 0 is as a whole number. Our natural numbers are counting numbers that begin at 1. Whole numbers are the counting numbers plus the number 0. Integers add the negative counterparts. And rational numbers include anything that has a fraction, decimal, or is written as a percentage. In 15, it wants to know what is the most specific way you could classify the number, negative 4.3. Because it is a negative, it has to be either a rational number or an integer. The 0.3 at the end tells us that it is rational. An integer cannot have any fraction or decimal as part of the answer. So this is a rational number. That's it for the no calculator section. Please check back for answers to the calculator section.